Welcome in, gardeners. Today I'm going to do an in-depth check on my veggie plants just to see how they're doing. While I do water every day and add nutrition whenever I can, every week or so I like to be able to just check on my plants' overall health just to see how they're doing. Do the leaves look great? Are they getting enough nutrition? Are the fruits starting to fruit? And by the looks of it, there's a lot of fruit starting to grow. So let's go check up on the garden and see how it's going. Squash, squash, squash. I've got so many squashes here. Sometimes it's so hard to keep up with, but I just really love them. And I actually started these from seed right before the frost and put them out maybe about a week after the frost here in about March. I always like to make sure that I just keep an eye on the veggies, whether, some days I may not water or I may not do anything with them, but so that's why I like to do a check on them maybe every week or two and just see how they're doing, checking to see if the leaves are green and dark and lush like this, or if they got any diseases to them. I want to make sure that there's plenty of airflow in here and make sure that if I need to trim up some of the leaves so that the pollinators can get in there and be able to pollinate, they can. It just kind of depends on what do I see. How many, female flowers are there? How many male flowers are there? And just to be able to just do a basic check. Do I need to add, nitrogen? How much are they growing? Are they growing to the size that they should be after a couple months? Or do I need to add a little bit more nutrition on them? And so I like to be able to just, go out here and just sort of enjoy the time, take a look at everything, but just enjoy everything that you're growing. And each one of these plants has about 4, maybe 5 squashes on them. So they're doing really well for coming from seed. So I'm out here in my little cornfield, I like to say. Last year I did about 10 corn, and this year I kind of want to ramp it up a little bit more. Kind of a lot, because I think I have like 40 to 50 corn in here. And I would say it's probably around a 4x4 bed, give or take. It's a little bit different shape. But I wanted just to be able to, why not? I got a seed package, and they come with I think it was like 20, 30 seeds, a couple of seed packets, and I filled up all this. I did plant them at different times, because I did have some corn that were a different kind. They're all sweet corns, but they're just a little bit different. So when these start pollinating, the big ones, the pollen starts falling, these won't be ready, so I don't have to worry about them cross pollinating and maybe making a different kind of corn that I don't like. And so I like to be able to just check out on them and make sure that they're doing pretty good. I probably have maybe another month or two. They're about 2 feet tall. I'm kind of wanting them to be around hopefully 5 to 6 feet tall. And so I always want to make sure that they got plenty of water, because they will just suck that water up, and the nitrogen. So with the nitrogen, I do add nitrogen liquid fertilizer, but I'm also planting beans in here. And I'll plant beans pretty close to where once they're 2 feet tall, I'll just plant beans throughout here, and the beans will just suck up the nitrogen from the atmosphere and just bring it down into the soil, which will help out the corn. And the beans will be able to just climb up the corn as they grow too. But I want to be able to plant them at the right time, because I also do want to do squash, which will do a cover crop here, which I like to call, to where it'll shade the bottom. So when I'm watering, it doesn't evaporate as fast, because I don't want to have to be able to just water every single day if it gets really hot here. I want them to have enough shade on here, but they're doing really well. And last year I may have gotten like 5 or 6 corn, and this year I probably planted around, like I said, 40 to 50. Hopefully I'll get 40 to 50 corn, or maybe I'll get lucky and the stock will have 2 corns, and I'll be able to have even more than that. But they're looking pretty healthy. I want to make sure that they're staying straight up and everything like that, and they're not leaning down. And I planted them really close together, so that way when the pollen falls by the wind, it'll just hit either the corn it's come from or the one right next to it. And so with wind pollination, that's why I want to have them really close together. so that they're just easy to be pollinated. And this is what I call my brassica farm right here. I planted cabbage and I also planted broccoli here and here. And I like to keep the brassicas close together. If I did cauliflower, it would probably be in this bed or close together. A few things. They do have the same kind of pests, so with something like this that I've not had too much success, I want to be able to know what I'm fighting. So at least if I know that there's one or two pests, I'll know how to deal with it instead of maybe 4 or 5, because there's different kind of plants. But these are the same. Plus, they have the same requirements. So they'll have the same amount of water requirements, sun requirements, temperature requirements, nutrient requirements. So being that I hadn't had too much success with them over the past few years, I kind of want them just close together so that way I can keep an eye on them. Because if I have them all over the yard, I'll have to go check there, then there, and maybe over there. And I won't know if it's because of that soil over there or a certain pest over there. But at least here, I can keep kind of a better control of the environment, and I'll be able to just assess the situation. But the broccoli's doing not too bad. This one's about to be harvested. It's a little smaller than I would like, but being that there are little offshoots here, I'll just chop the head off and be able to have these little side shoots grow, and maybe they'll get a little bigger themselves and I'll have a little bit more food. Yeah, so they're not doing too bad. The leaves are really dark green. There are getting bite marks in some of the lower leaves, so some of them I will trim off, some of them I'll leave. But hopefully that doesn't affect the growth too well, and I'll have a nice bounty of a harvest. So whether you call them a fruit or a veggie, this is one of my favorite plants to plant every single year as tomato plant. And so when I'm coming out here and I'm going to check on them, I want to make sure that their leaves are dark green and that they don't have any kind of diseases. If I do have any leaves that are touching the ground, I like to just be able to snip them off. And that way the soil doesn't get onto the leaves and maybe cause a disease. And I want to check on the flowering, because who doesn't want to check the flowers? Because once you see the flowers, like, all right, the tomatoes are going to be coming in a few more weeks, and it just sort of gets you excited once you start seeing flowers on certain plants. That's why in some plants, when you don't see flowers, it's like, you don't get that excitement, even though I do love them. But once you see the flowers, and now some of them do have tomatoes on them, and it just starts to get you more excited once you know the next step is happening. And, once that step is over, then the next step. And then hopefully after that, there's your fruit. And that's what really gets me excited about tomatoes. And just the fact that I grew up eating tomatoes on the farm, and that was just one of the ones that my parents gave to me, and one of the very few vegetables I loved as a child. I would just eat a tomato with salt and enjoy it like that. Or, of course, on my sandwiches and everything like that. But it was just one of the staples in the household that we always grew. And maybe it's because it just always grew. You didn't have to worry about it as much. I feel like once you put the tomato in the ground, it's just going to skyrocket. As long as it's got the water, the right kind of soil and nutrients, and enough sun. And it's just going to do so well. Because, especially if you're in an area where maybe there's not a lot of bees or any kind of pollinators, these will just self-pollinate themselves. Sometimes I will shake the flowers just to kind of help pollinate them. You don't really have to. They will self-pollinate themselves. They have the female and the male parts right there together. So they will basically take care of themselves. And who doesn't like that? Who doesn't like a plant that said, I'm good. I'm good. You know what? Just give me my needs, and you know what? You'll get your harvest, all right? And, that's what I love about it. Although the couple of things I did make mistakes on here is I planted the tomatoes a little too close. I got a little too overzealous, and I started putting them, I thought it was the right amount of distance, but the tomato plants grow so big, they grow into each other. And if you have something like an indeterminate that will just continue to grow and determinate right next to it, could overshadow it. And fortunately, I planted tomatoes in other areas, so I should be okay. But yeah, if I had to redo this, I would probably have a little bit less tomatoes in here, a little bit more spacing, so that way they get enough sun around them and enough airflow. but you live and learn. Even after 7, 8 years, you still make mistakes, and it's okay. And sometimes you just want so many. You see so many plants, you want to plant into everything to a point where you kind of run out of room. But like, I'm gonna plant more. But that's okay. And the good thing about that is you can always learn for next year. That's why I like to be able to just come out here and check out the garden every so often and just see how everything's going and seeing, did I make a mistake? If so, how can I fix it? If I can't fix it then, how can I fix it for next year? I probably would not rip out these plants now, but if they were small and I found the mistake then, I would probably just take them out of the ground and put them somewhere else if I can. But as of right now, I'm not ripping these babies out. I'll take what I can get, and I always appreciate everything I can get. So, and I think I will get a pretty decent harvest and plenty of fruit to eat. Now, these are just a few things that I check out in the garden. Just a few plants that I like to check. I do grow pumpkins. I do grow beans, potatoes, lettuce, onions, and it's a lot of work to do, but it's just a lot of enjoyment, especially as they grow on and get bigger. And you can kind of see the end of the line where everything's just going to be fruiting along. So yeah, so stay tuned. And every week I might just have to check on the garden again and check something different, check to see how my potatoes are doing, my lettuce is doing. Maybe check on some of the fruit trees. I probably have way too many fruit trees too, but once you buy one fruit tree, you want 5, and then you want 10, and it just sort of snowballs from there. Like in the beginning, like, I got so much room. And you start planting everything, and you're like, where did all my room go? But yeah, so stay tuned, and I look forward to keep on this adventure. Thank you.